Hello, everybody, and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog and podcast, A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill, and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 1,500 comedians for the last 50 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today. It's the wonderful comedian, Mr. Adam Bloom. Yay!
Well,
Hello, my friend.
I'm very used to the sound of an audience of one applauding me.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome. It's going to be an hour talking about your wonderful stand-up comedy career. And I'd like to go right back to the start and ask you, please, how did you become a comedian in the first place?
Well, I wanted to be a comedian since I was 9 years old. But I saw Emo Phillips on TV when I was 19. I started writing jokes. And then I saw Harry Hill just before my 23rd birthday. And that was it. I was doing it a couple of weeks later. So they were the two biggest...
Two heroes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So what year are we talking?
December 93.
1993, you've been going, wow. Because the first time I saw you was something like 2006-7 at the Edinburgh Fringe with your solo show. And your solo show was called Come and Look at Me Now, or Look at Me Now. Yeah, it was that one. That was the poster.
Very good memory. It was called Look at Me Anybody.
Look at Me Anybody, that's it. Yeah.
Can I tell you the reason for the title?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So my niece would have been about 5 at the time, and we had a Wagamama's, and she put the food in her mouth, the noodles, and she had them either side like fangs. And she went, "Look, Mum." And her mum was really busy and didn't hear her. And she went, "Look, Dad." And I was watching the whole thing from the other side of the table. And she went, "Look, Dad." And her dad didn't hear her. And then she went, she went, "Look at me, Mum." Nothing. "Look at me, Dad." And then she went, "Look at me, anybody." Right. And it suddenly occurred to me, that's what comedians are doing. You don't know who's turning up, do you? So I laughed at the fact that she just anybody look at me, someone see what I look like. And I thought, wait a minute, that's what we all do every night.
Exactly. Brilliant title.
Thank you.
So well done. So you decide in 1993 to become a comedian. Describe your first ever gig. Were your gigs like pub gigs where you had 5-minute slots and friends turning up?
My gig was at the Bearcat in St Margaret's, which is a kind of annex, like a scout hut to the pub. And I was given 7 minutes. I did 15 because I had no gauge of how long the material would last, because I had all my friends in, my sister in, but it went well, which was, beginner's luck, I suppose. But it didn't take long to have a bad gig, not at all.
You see, I can't imagine you having a bad gig because you're so confident on stage.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember my first death was my 6th gig, and that was on the 6th of February, and then my 11th gig death was on the 11th. And I remember thinking, I've got to get past 31 gigs so there's no more date jinxes. In fact, my 25th gig was on the 25th, and I threw up that afternoon because I decided in my mind that I was going to have a death on every date that was coincided with the number of gigs I'd done. So yeah, 6th gig was on the 6th, died. 11th on the 11th, died, and then 25th was on the 25th. Luckily, it went well, and I got rid of that. That hang up. But yeah, as I said, once you pass 31 gigs, you can't have a gig on the same date as the number of gigs you've done, right? but yeah, I remember my 11th gig just had a bad start, and then a few minutes in, everyone was looking at the floor, the front row looking at the floor, and it's like the agony of like, there's someone failing to be funny. This is painful. I can't even look him in the eye. And I remember thinking, oh no, that thing's happening again. It's like you're out of control. You just go on and say the words. They either laugh or they don't. But you're not, as a new comedian, you're not in control of that. You're not on top of it. You just say the words and hope for the best.
So was there a point where you thought, this is working well and I can do this as a career?
Well, I always felt for my first gig that it all made sense. My whole life up until that point was, now this is the thing I've been needing to do.
Yeah.
And I've been a frustrated comedian the whole time up to that day. So then I went, okay, this all makes sense now. This is what I was put on this, not put on this earth by God. I mean, this is my vocation. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
So it wasn't a case of any one particular gig from the first gig that told me that. The first gig told me that. And I don't mean that in a conceited way. I mean that in a, everything makes sense now. This is what I'm supposed to do. So when I had a bad gig, I just carried on. You know, there's a Public Enemy track from the first album called Time Bomb. If you like hip hop, the track Time Bomb by Public Enemy, amazing record. And there's a line when he said, I never heard the booze, I never drank booze. As in, I just ignored the booing and I stayed sober. And I you know, obviously you can't, if you're being booed, you hear the booze, but the point was it didn't affect him. I didn't, you know, so a bad gig just meant I got up and had carried on. You know, a bad gig wasn't going to put me off doing stand-up.
I think I do mention this to a lot of other comedians. I think you have to have a bad gig in order to be a better comedian.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
You learn from the bad gigs, but unfortunately you don't enjoy them.
Yeah. It's all experience though, I can imagine.
Oh, absolutely. A good gig just massages your ego. I mean, new material at a good gig is obviously you go, okay, that worked. I can tweak it, hone it in or whatever. But the idea that, you know, a bad gig makes you realize what you mustn't do again. When, you know, you touch a hot kettle as a kid, you never go near that kettle again. Yeah. So you learn technique from doing things. And you watch somebody inexperienced doing things wrong. And they face a junction at the gig and they go down the wrong side. And you're like, no, don't do that one. But if they, you know, if they're sensible, they'll work out what to do next time. You know, I said this yesterday. I was in Zurich doing a book masterclass. You know, I wrote a book last year, and I said, no, this was in Basel the day before. I just came out of a line that resonated with one of the people in the class. I said, we're all new comedians, just with different levels of experience.
Exactly.
That's so my point is, yeah, when I'm faced with a difficult situation that I haven't been in, that moment there, I'm at the junction and I'm a new comedian because I don't know which one. So we're just, you know, I mean, all human beings, we're babies with just new life experiences, aren't we? So
it's interesting that you mentioned Harry Hill at the top of the chat because he started out obviously in the clubs and then he went to television. And he got very popular on TV, but he's come back into the clubs purely because of the love of the game of the comedy. He's a wonderful comedian. I always rate him because he has my favourite one-line opening line ever. I saw him 30 odd years ago before he was famous downstairs at the King's Head. I used to go there a lot, and he brushed past me and he went, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry I'm late for the gig. I had to have a testicle brought down." And there was a pause and a laugh. And then he said, "From Derby."
that was Harry Hill, definitely Harry Hill.
Yeah.
Right.
and then when I met him 20 odd years later, I told him this, and he said, "Rich," he said, I say that all the time.
See,
He's such a genius.
I actually, believe it or not, about a month and a half ago, I quoted that line to Rob Hitchmo, crediting it to him.
Wow.
And he said no. He said, I had a similar line about rugby. So what's happened is I've merged the memory of him doing rugby line with Harry Hill doing the and I've credited. So now, is that what coincidence? I quoted that line.
That's extraordinary.
6 weeks ago, yeah, and credited it to the wrong comedian. So now I know whose it
is. I've never forgotten that line. And he burst out laughing when I reminded him of it. And what's lovely about him as well, like you, is that whenever I see you, it's always new material. He always works so hard with new material for the audience, and you're the same.
Well, I wish I was more prolific. I mean, I suppose if you're seeing me once a year, then there'll be, you know, predominantly new stuff. But I also sometimes feel guilty that I haven't got as much new stuff as I'd like. So it's always nice when someone says what you said, because I don't think of myself as prolific, but obviously compared to some, I'm not prolific, but compared to others, I'm very prolific. But I would definitely like to turn it over quicker than I do, if I'm honest with you.
So when you're on stage, what do you like to talk about? Do you have any specific themes or anything like that?
No. Um, I don't really talk about relationships. Um, if I talk about anything sexual, it's very brief and not graphic. I had a bit that was a little bit graphic, and I realized it was coming outside of my persona, so I chopped it in half and kept it at the clean bit.
Right. So is it mainly just news items, things like this, or things that
No,
have happened
no,
to
the
you?
opposite. No,
Oh, right,
I don't mention the news ever.
right.
I've got one line when I mention the news being on in the background, and we know what the topic is, but I don't talk about the news. No, no, I talk about the things I look at when I walk through my day.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So good. So following on from that, tell me about your writing process for a routine or a show. How do you go about writing things down? How do you get your ideas?
I write 4 words down for an idea. I'm not joking. No, I'll show you. I'll show you 1 second. I don't write it down. Everyone, because I write for other people, everyone thinks I write my stuff down, but I don't. When I wrote a book about how to write, I showed you methods, but there's methods happening in my head. But
Yeah.
of course, you can't draw a picture of your brain. So I've got to here new material. 1 second. So the latest bits.
4 words. Wow, look at
Coming up.
that.
Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah, 4 lines. That's incredible.
Yeah. So there you go. Look.
Wow.
Yeah. So what's the glue one? 1 second. I don't even remember the line. Daughter's tooth glue. There you go. Gluing on a tooth. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, the thing is for me is if you write down spoken word, you're in danger of it not sounding like you. So I do it in my head because we're both forming sentences on the cuff off the cuff right now. It looks like I've got a horn. Look,
it's the cushion.
Yeah. So I'm gonna move that. But yeah. So for me, in my head, I'll process out how it should sound on stage. I won't say it out loud. I won't say it out loud until I'm on stage. I can hear it in my head, and then I'll do it on stage. And
Is that because it's like you want it to sound as natural as it can be?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you've never said it before. It's like your first time that you've said it.
I mean, obviously the second and third time I say it, it's still got to sound as fresh. So once I've said it, it's already been said before. So it's not so much that it's the first time I say it will sound fresh, because the second time I've still got to say it again and again anyway. It's more that I've done it so much inside my head, I don't need to. I mean, I'm sure an interior designer can picture a color next to it. They don't have to hold the cushion next to the sofa. They can see it. You get stronger at the things you do. And therefore, I'd have to take a cushion to a sofa shop. But I think some people can just picture it in their mind's eye. Maybe there are people listening to this going, no, they don't. But you can hear sentences. I can hear rhythm of sentences without saying the words out loud. I can hear that words sound nice next to each other without saying them.
So would you say, following on from that do you switch jokes round in routines or stories round in routines, or do you base it on, if you didn't get a laugh one night, you try it again, see if it was see if it got a laugh and then drop it? Or how do you go about structuring it all?
So if I try line and it doesn't work at all, I'll consider the wording changing a little bit. If I think it's the right wording and it doesn't work, I'll consider it needs to be placed somewhere else where there's more energy in the room. I talk about all jokes being balls or cubes, and cubes need to be pushed by a ball because they don't roll on the surface. Whereas if you've got an ice rink and a Rubik cube, and a crystal ball hits the Rubik cube will slide a lot, but balls can be flicked and they'll roll on their own. So if there's energy in the room, some jokes work because they're more clever and funny, so they need that push of the atmosphere. So when a comedian says, "Oh, they didn't get that joke," and I'm like, "Well, you don't hear that often," but backstage they'll go, "They didn't get that joke," and I'm like, or they didn't laugh at that joke and they got it.
Very good. Yeah. That's a great answer.
Well, it's a delusion that comedians have. If a joke fails, they think the audience didn't get it, and it's really arrogant. I mean, you're a bad example because you laugh all the way through a show, right? You're the one person on the planet I can't make this example to.
I'm going to use that as a testimonial.
But so my point is, if a joke doesn't work, it doesn't mean they didn't get it. It could be because they didn't find it funny enough to laugh. So it might be more clever than funny. So I create energy before it and then punch it with a ball, and then suddenly the cerebral joke worked because there's excitement in the audience's bodies. That little laughter that's still waiting to come out. So,
it's funny you say that, because if ever I am not laughing, if ever I'm silent, comedians start thinking, oh my God, what's wrong with my routine, because he's not laughing. And the whole premise of the blog and the podcast is my total joy of going to a comedy night. If there's one criticism, everybody says, oh, I like everybody. But it's my experiences of actually going there, and because I love the whole process, you've got to give credit to anybody who at least has a go. Some will be a lot better than others, but it's a fascinating premise to go for, because you start off positive and it just gets better. It's such a wonderful medium.
I'm so glad you like it.
Well, as long as I can move, I will go to a comedy gig.
That's great. That's great. Have you seen more comedy than anyone, do you think?
I've seen a lot. There are now 1,550 comedians. That's since 1974, so it's 50 years.
Who's the first comedian you saw?
My first ever comedian was Les Dawson on Holiday.
Oh, wow.
And a year later we saw Tommy Cooper. And it was incredible. The Les Dawson story, my grandma, I always like to think it's my grandma. It was either my grandma or an old woman was sitting next to me. She was late for the show. She crawled down in front of the audience, and he took the piss out of her for the rest of the show.
Who did?
The encore
Who took the piss out of her?
This is Les Dawson, first show I ever saw. And the encore, the curtains opened, and he went, ladies and gentlemen, we're very privileged tonight to have the chairwoman of the Scarborough Women's Institute. We're on holiday in Scarborough, because my home city is Carlisle. And pointed at my grandma, and he said, she's been let out the home today. She's 111 years old, and I want you all to join in and sing Happy Birthday with me. And he starts on the piano badly, playing the piano, and everybody joins in. And just as he got to the thing, he looked to the wings, and he goes, what? Oh, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. She's not 111, she's ill. And the curtain comes down and opposites.
That's it.
Genius.
Yeah.
And I thought, I love this. And the other one, the Tommy Cooper, the curtain opened and there's nothing on stage but a bed, and he's lying on it. And one woman in the packed audience cried with laughter at this. He hadn't done a thing. And it trickled round, so everybody was crying with laughter. And after about 10 minutes, he popped his head up. He went, what, somebody come on.
and then did an act?
And then he did something, went off and did something else. He was incredible, because I like to think he didn't realise just how funny he was, and yet he knew every mannerism and everything, because he had to get the tricks right to get them wrong. It's an extraordinary act. Very, very funny man. He walked on second half to thunderous applause, and he just went good night and walked off.
I did that. Very inventive.
And then he had to be persuaded to come back on again.
Wow.
He was a master.
Without a doubt.
He was a master. To have the ability to move your fares or to not do anything. This is what I'm talking about. Eric Morecambe had the glasses, and the fez is the other one, where you don't do anything and the audiences are laughing. That's another level, definitely. And he's definitely top 5 for me. He's just amazing. Anyway, it's all about you. So you're doing your gigs, and you're doing them wonderfully. I've seen you many, many times, and you've made me laugh like a drain. You really are an exceptional comedian. As I said earlier on, I can't believe that you have bad gigs, because you're always very confident. But how do you cope if at all, if you get any nerves on stage. Do you ever get nervous?
I don't get nerves on stage. No, I get nerves before I go on occasionally, but my
Yeah.
nerves are on stage. No, no.
Would you say that any nerves you may have before you go on stage will go when you speak into the microphone or when you get the first laugh?
The second I hear my name, the nerves go.
Wow.
Mm.
Do you not have any routines or anything to psych yourself up before you go on stage?
No, I say a little prayer.
Nice.
Mm.
That's brilliant. And because the reason why I asked that question is my favourite actor is Jack Lemmon, and I think he's brilliant. And when the American Film Institute gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award, he said whenever the cameras roll, before I start filming, I always say to myself, it's magic time, and I think that's wonderful.
Beautiful.
And it's like, that's why I'm asking you, is there any specific things? But if you say a little prayer or whatever, that's wonderful.
Well, in my prayer, I remind myself to be playful, because it doesn't matter how clever your material is or how witty it is. If it's not coming from a playful person, I'm not as funny as I could be, because
Yeah.
my comedy comes from a childlike innocence. So, a mischievous glint in my eye. So the motor inside you is the most important thing. So I remind myself to be funny, not just say funny.
That's brilliant. How do you remember all your routines? Do you have various devices to remind you of things or anything like this?
No, once you've said something enough times, it's lodged in your brain. I could talk to someone in the front row and they're a plumber. If I've got a routine about plumbers from 25 years ago, it'll come out. Because it's a bit like saying your postcode. You can say your old postcode. You might not be able to see a postcode when you're a kid, but well, we didn't have postcodes when we were kids. But I can say my last postcode, my postcode before that. So I can, once you said something enough times, it's in your mind.
Yeah, I dispute that because I agree with what you say, but the story for me was that other than this blog, the most creative thing I've ever done is write a play, and we put it on for the Edinburgh. Well, I wanted to put it on for the Edinburgh Fringe, which I still might do, but we put it on for Comic Relief. And I wrote this play, and it was all about monologues, and then a character would come on, and I would bounce off them. And I wrote this thing, and there was 3 performances. And the first night I ran out, and I was like a rabbit in headlights. I completely forgot my lines.
No, sure, but that's a whole brand new hour of stuff. When I try a bit, I'm adding a sentence or 2 every time I try a new bit out.
Right.
So I'm not going. Listen, I had a Radio 4 series for 3 years. Each series took 9 months to write. So the 6 episodes, I went out there with the script in front of me, and I would not have been able to do it without the script in front of me. No, I had that I was reading from a page.
Right.
I know, not a chance. But stand-up comes in sentences at a time. So when you see me let's say you see me do a 20, 30-minute set in a club.
Yeah.
Everything I'm saying has been said before, and therefore I've learned them as individual little bits. But no, I mean, I've actually got a recurring dream that I'm in a play and I forget my lines.
It's horrible, I know.
And also there's someone else waiting to speak. So they can't say their line until you say your line. However, in stand-up, if I did forget a bit in stand-up, it doesn't matter, because I just stop it halfway through and they don't know it's supposed to be longer.
Excuse me. Tell me more about your Radio 4 show. I was going to ask you about this. Did you approach writing it differently to stand-up?
Yeah, because there were themed shows with other actors in them doing act outs of the points I was making. So every word had to be written down.
Right. So and of course that was easier to get your subject across, was it? Or
well, it was nothing was easier. It was just a case of I had to write things. I had to sit down and write it. So I had to go, right, I'm going to write an episode about gossip. Right. So what's the story I'm going to reenact from my life? and how many people need to be in it, and what are their parts, and what's the monologue at the beginning. I set up the premise, I talk about it, I get maybe a little bit philosophical about the topic, and then it starts to fall into place. But it's not easier. No, if anything, it's harder because you've got to write to order. You've got 9 months to produce. I mean, the third series, they were half hour each. First 2 series were 15 minutes an episode, 6 episodes. So the third series, I had to write twice as much. I had to write 2 years' work in 1 year, and that was daunting. But you do it because you have to. What are you going to do? Pay the BBC back in terms to take it out of the listings?
No, you're not going to do that. But so the stand-up, as you say, is much more random because you only have your 3 or 4 lines on your phone, and you just do you go out there and think to yourself, right, where's this going to go tonight?
Yeah. I think I probably got my favorite 7 minutes at any gig that I would be doing. So if you followed me around to 2 gigs in one night, there'll be 7 to 10 minutes that's going to be in both gigs, and the other 10 I'm plucking as I go. I don't really have a DJ with a box of records.
Right. That's why I love the randomness of you and your comedy. It's great. It's so good. Let's move on. So I am very fortunate every year to be able to go to the Edinburgh Fringe. It's my holiday. I see about 50 shows when I'm there. I go for a week. I'm also branching out to more festivals. I've just come back from Hull. I go to Leicester. I go to Brighton. I go to Hastings. Really, really good festivals and fringes. Tell me about your experience of fringes and festivals. When you first went, did you go as a punter? Were you in any shows other than your solo shows, anything like that?
Well, the first festival I actually did was Just for Laughs in Montreal in 1998. So I did Just for Laughs before Melbourne, before...
Wow.
Yeah, no, sorry, I did Edinburgh. Sorry. The first festival outside of Edinburgh I did was Just for Laughs in 98. And then Melbourne 99, and then back to Melbourne 2000. Then I did Just for Laughs 2001, 2005, 2013. So quite a big gap at the last 2. But so my actual first experience of a festival outside Great Britain was Just for Laughs, which was a massive deal for me because I'd watched, even Rowan Atkinson with the green monster behind him, the Just for Laughs logo, and I'm going, this is so cool. This is like globally where comedians get plucked from around the world and go, this is what we're doing at the moment. So yeah, that was a massive deal for me. I can't even tell you the excitement getting on a plane to Montreal.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's too good to be true. And I remember the second time I did it because I did a gala 2001 and 2005. So that's the TV show. So the first time I was like the lower tier, and then the second time I was doing the gala. But and Sean Locke was
oh, bless him.
Yeah, Sean Locke was I think it was on the plane out there at or Heathrow. I can't remember, it was either on Heathrow or the plane, or maybe we just arrived and we're checking in. But he said, I'm quite excited about this. Have you been before? And it's really weird turning around to like my hero and going, yes, like, I looked up to him, always have done. So I'm going, yeah, I've been here before. And it felt weird saying to Sean Locke, I've been here before. But what was nice was he sounded quite excited because Sean Locke is an excitable person.
Yeah.
So when he said I'm quite excited, I was like, I thought Sean Locke took everything in his stride and wouldn't be excited. We're like, it's just another festival. But like I remember in 1997, I bumped into him in the street and I said, oh, you've got 5 stars in the Scotsman and the list. That's Kingpins. And I said, how does that feel? And he went, oh, I don't know. I don't read them. And he just shrugged it off.
That was his genius, just
popping it off. He couldn't care less.
Yeah. And that is a good way to be.
Yes, because if you get excited by the good reviews, you'll get hurt by the bad ones. So you just get a zen position. You go, nothing bothers me.
So when you're talking about Montreal and Melbourne, do you sense a difference with the audiences to British audiences, or does that not bother you?
I mean, obviously you've got to watch your references, but no, I mean, I think North Americans get excited quicker than British audiences.
Yeah.
Melbourne, they treated it a bit more like an art form. Obviously, Edinburgh treats it like an art form, but Melbourne as a city, like the general public saw comedy as more like theatre.
Right.
You know, they didn't talk, they didn't heckle, they watched it like it was a play. And I think Melbourne fancies itself as a bit artier than the rest of Australia. You know, they think, you know, our country's low culture, but we're high culture in Melbourne, a little bit European. So that self-proclaimed fan of the arts was a good thing to be at, because maybe someone from Sydney might go, oh, Melbourne people are a bit pretentious, but I want people who treat comedy like art in my audience.
That's great.
Yeah,
very much so. And being back to Britain, do you go around any other fringes and festivals other than Edinburgh? Have you done that?
Not for a long time. No, I did Leicester once, Brighton once, but no, I pretty much. I mean, I did Edinburgh this year for the first time in 17 years.
Wow! And what was that like?
Intensely enjoyable.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Doing an hour every night, doing an hour 9 nights running was a treat. And also 9 nights you can cherish it, but 25 nights you can start to go and it becomes Groundhog Day and you get bored of your own show by the third week. So the 9 nights was just perfect, because I mean, when it ended, I didn't want it to end. You know, I left myself wanting more.
It's I don't know how comedians do 25 nights. It's so much to do. That's all I've ever known. It must get monotonous.
That's all I've ever known.
Yeah.
In the eight Edinburghs prior to that, I only did the whole run ever.
Wow. It must be exhausting.
Yeah. You get a cold when you get home, you get a cold because your immune system drops.
Oh.
You're running on adrenaline.
When I go, I've been every week of it. I've been every different week of it. So of course the first week they're all just starting off, and then the middle week is always renowned to be the best week because they're at the best. But I've started going at the end of it where everybody's exhausted and I can go and hello, I'm here. And they're all, oh my God, it's amazing, it's Rich, you know, and you can see the shattered, but you can see the delighted to see you as well. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, which amazes me, this blog and podcast is purely based on my experiences, as I've said. And now, having had it going for about 4 or 5 years, wherever I go, in any festival or fringe especially, or even in London, the comedian recognises me. And it's so heartwarming, because I feel as though I'm giving myself, I'm supporting them as best I can. And it's lovely that you get the recognition. There's no financial reward or anything with this. I'm just
I had that view. I can't remember where I first saw you in the audience, but I last saw you at Sofa So Funny.
Yeah.
And I referenced you. I think you might have seen me at one of the Outside the Box gigs. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right. So I saw you, like, you know, and you are a good audience member. You know, you sit near the front and you laugh at everything. Obviously, you don't laugh at everything. You're a good laugher.
Yeah. It's I should get my laugh insured. Definitely.
or franchise.
Exactly. Yes. To date, what has been, apart from this, what has been your comedy highlight?
I mean, my first Just for Laughs gala, I'm backstage. There's 3,500 people, and Jon Stewart is the MC.
Wow.
And that was pretty cool. He got a standing ovation walking on. I'm following someone who got a standing ovation walking on stage. Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's pressure.
Yeah, because and but again, fearless. I can imagine you going on. Just let me at him.
Well, I wasn't thinking let me at him when I was backstage. I was sipping more water, putting it down, sipping again, putting it in case it go dry. When I hear my name, I went out and did my thing. I've got Brendan Burns was in the audience. Sean Lock and Dave Johns and Brendan Burns in the audience.
Oh.
And Brendan counted 7 applause breaks in 7 minutes.
Wow.
So I obviously had a good gig, but I wasn't nervous on stage. I was doing the job. But backstage, no, I was not saying let me at him. I was terrified. No, I was terrified. But of course, to me, backstage is not me on stage. They didn't see that. I went on, did my act. That's what you do. You walk on stage and you do your set.
What a highlight, though. That's incredible.
Yeah, amazing. I'll tell you what's funny about Nerves. The second gala I did was only 4 years later. I felt like I was at another gig.
Yeah.
Because when it's not new to you anymore, it's that, like, I always feel like the first night at any run, if I go to Just for Laughs, my first night, I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing stuff I've never done in Canada before. I think it'll work. All my references are clear, but then you go on, it works. Then once that gig's out the way, you're inside the bubble, and therefore you're not as nervous the second time. But with regard to Just for Laughs Gala, I'm at the same theatre, the Saint Denis. I'm backstage, and I'm going to go on and do my gig. The other thing is, I wasn't following Jon Stewart. It was a British gala, so I was backstage with all the British comedians like Alan Carr, Rod Gilbert, Lee Mack.
Oh,
There's safety in being around your peers, whereas the other one, I just didn't know anyone. I was just terrified.
yeah. Well, you will be.
Mm.
Oh, mate. Do you have any ambitions as a comedian? And by that, I mean, would you like your own, I don't know, quiz show on TV or anything like this?
I can't think of anything worse than having a quiz show.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So you're happy just to carry on and do what you do, because you do it wonderfully.
Well, thank you. I had quite a lot of sort of success quite early. It kind of I went full time very quickly, and then got lots of television, and then it kind of fizzled out. Then got radio, and then that ended, and I started writing for people, and that hasn't ended, thank God. But I wrote a book last year, as you know, and the book's taken me around the world to do book like Q&As. I've just did, in the last 10 days, I did 6-hour Q&As in Dublin, Rotterdam, Basel, Zurich, and a total of 10 gigs in those 4 cities. Because if you're going to fly someone out to talk about a book, you may as well get them a gig. It'd be crazy not to.
That's amazing.
So
That's amazing.
So I'm doing gigs that I wouldn't. I did 2 gigs in Singapore, 1 gig in Vietnam. Those gigs would not have had me out because they didn't know I existed. So
yeah.
It's almost like there's a whole new, not circuit, but a whole new load of gigs I'm doing in places that didn't know I existed. So I'm reborn at the moment.
Tell me more about the writing. Did you have a good experience writing the book, and are you going to be writing any more?
There's no other book in me now because it's everything I know. I mean, every now and again in the Q&As, I talk about something that's not in the book, and I answer a question. I think, oh, that could have been in the book. But I mean, no. If everything I know that's not in the book would probably be 2 chapters, as opposed to 32 chapters.
But it's wonderful that you've ticked it off your bucket list. If you've always wanted to write a book, something like that.
I mean, I hadn't always wanted to write a book, but I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't tell you.
Well, this blog was originally a book, but I couldn't afford the publishing rights. And my friend said, "Well, why don't you do a blog? Because they're never ending." And I thought, that's a great idea. So of course it just carries on and on and on, and it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding to see it fly. It really is. So congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
It sounds amazing. It really does. Now the next question is celebrating my 50 years. And I want to ask you, how do you think comedy has evolved in the last 50 years?
Well, I can't say 50 years. I can say 30.
30.
I mean, the last 2, people have become overly sensitive because we're all a product of our society, and people have now decided they can't laugh at certain things. It's very interesting to watch a joke. I'll bring back a line, like I said, bring stuff back one night, and a line ceases to work because public attitudes have changed.
Yeah.
Now, the public who are deciding that's not funny, who would have laughed at it 3 years ago, are products of their environment. They're not individual thinkers. They're thinking like the masses are telling them to think. So that's interesting that public are always one going, oh, you can't say that now. Yeah. So what's happened is comedians with edgier stuff are being, criticized or cancelled or adjusting what they do to fit. So I think that comedy with opinions is in danger of being censored now. I mean, people are censoring themselves before they go on stage by choosing not to do a joke. So I think sensitivity is at an all-time high. I think that what's been interesting is women in comedy are doing what they want to do. So when I started out, 95% of the women in comedy, which wasn't many of them, were being shocking and aggressive and sexual because they almost felt such a male environment. That was their way of, bursting on the stage, and like you couldn't, they fought their way past any prejudices. There was Hattie Hayridge, who was always very gentle and cerebral, but now there are far more women who are doing exactly what they want to do. They'll do one-liners, or they'll do conceptual stuff, or they'll do surreal stuff, and that's great. So what's changed is public attitudes towards women have improved in the sense that a woman can just go and say, this is what I do. And I'm sure that women listening to this going, no, we still have to face prejudice, but nothing like before.
Nothing like before.
Nothing like before.
I totally agree with you, because I think it's such a great medium for a comedian to speak his mind and say what he wants and say anything really. And I think I think if that stops, then you're severely restricted in trying to entertain an audience, trying to get your point across, trying to say what you want to say. I think it would be a sad day if and I agree with you. I think comedians are starting to not do stuff because of the way the public are really, and I think that's a shame.
It is a shame, and then you get somebody going, "Oh, Ricky Gervais says how it is," and you think, "Well, Ricky Gervais has got an adoring audience who come knowing they're going to get something a bit edgy and opinionated." Also, the phrase "says it how it is" doesn't make sense. If someone says how it is, they say it how you agree is the correct way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's no such thing as "says how it is" because someone might not agree with you. So you don't say how it is to them. So my point is, the real risk takers are not Jimmy Carr doing a Netflix special, being edgy. It's someone walking out to a room of strangers and being edgy, because there's a risk that they'll reject them. It's great that Jimmy Carr is still doing edgy material because he didn't pander to the masses, but he had his audience. But when somebody who is unknown does edgy stuff to a room of strangers, they're risking getting booed off or stared at, because the zeitgeist is saying that kind of stuff is now not acceptable. But,
one of the reasons why this blog exists was I wanted to bring everybody in, not just the big hitters, and I can regularly be seen at new comedian nights, and it's this ability just to get up and have a go and see how it goes, and I think it's such a good medium to project yourself that, as I said earlier on, I think it would be a sad day if that gets restricted.
Yeah, well, it's as close as that's it's as close as it's ever got to that right now.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It hasn't. There aren't. I mean, I was at a club recently, and the promoter went on stage before the show started and said, "Look, we'd just like to say these people are here to entertain you, and offence is taken, not given." And it was like a little caveat before the show started. It's like, wow, how about just bringing on the comedians? But they felt the need for their audience to say, when I do a bit that is old and it doesn't work because the whole audience go, "We can't laugh at that," they are being dictated what their opinions are, because why didn't those people not like it 3 years ago?
Exactly.
Their opinions changed.
Yeah.
So when people think, oh, that's wrong, okay, why is it wrong today? It wasn't wrong 3 years ago. You've changed your opinion. And that's because of the stuff you read, and friends of yours are telling you how it's the correct way to think. You could say we're evolving as a species, but you knew, let's say Harry Hill's got a line I used to love, which was not just jockeys, I think all small people should be made to wear a number.
That's a great line.
I wonder if that would be considered height shaming.
Well, yeah, that's the somebody somewhere making a note. You can't do that. You can't say
dear BBC, I'm 5'0", and my life's been really tough as a man of 5'0", and I felt degraded. Someone said that they did a routine about a gay friend, and the gay friend was never mocked. Their homosexuality was not the victim of the joke, but the fact that their sexuality was relevant to the story. And someone wrote to the club and said, as a gay person, I didn't feel safe. It's like, but at the end of the routine, you realized that you were safe, and maybe you should feel pleased that the gay people are part of the comedy. There's not homophobic remarks. All of society is there to be discussed.
Yeah.
And if you consciously didn't mention gay people, Muslims, black people, disabled people without mocking them, those people in the audience won't be represented. So this person,
%1,000,000%.
yeah,
%1,000,000%.
So this person felt the need to complain that the subject matter made them uncomfortable. Is your conclusion no comedian can mention a gay friend on stage in case you feel uncomfortable? And the fact about this thing, like, I was triggered, I was upset, didn't feel, it wasn't a safe space for me. These words weren't used 3 years ago.
Yeah. It is ridiculous. I completely agree with you.
And if this happens to physical sensitivity, people will be suing councils because a leaf fell out of a tree and touched them on the elbow.
Yeah. It's exactly like you say. It's wrong. It's completely wrong. It really is. Let's move on. Who makes Adam Bloom laugh? Who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
Past and present: Sean Locke, Phil Kay, Paul Foot, Stephen Wright, Eva, Joan Rivers, I was going to say Dave Chappelle, but his recent stuff really disappointed me.
Yeah.
Emo Phillips, Harry Hill. I saw Mitch Hedberg live twice, and he was incredible.
He's superb.
Yeah.
Emo Phillips I saw at Edinburgh as well. I used to love Emo Phillips.
Was that 2001? Was that 2001?
Yeah. So
that year, a promoter said to me, "Do you want to support Emo Phillips for just a 7-minute gig at the beginning of his show?" I went, "Yep." And he went, "It's 40 quid." And I went, "I'll give you 40 quid.
Oh, mate.
I mean, 40 quid is so little money. You know, this is a 350-seater theatre.
Yeah.
It's so little money. And, obviously, Edinburgh's got expenses and your profits are going to be low. But he wanted someone to do 7 minutes, and I bit his hand off. And I met Emo, and I'm backstage with Emo, for God's sake.
I bet he's amazing. His show was called Please Witness My Act. It's so good. He's so good. Did you have comedy growing up?
Yeah, Kenny Everett, 2 Ronnies. Some Mothers Do Have Them.
Oh, brilliant.
What a title for a show, Some Mothers Do Have Them.
It's brilliant. It's one of the best, I think, underrated comedy series. I think he proved he was a superb physical clown in that.
Oh, incredible. But
Amazing.
I watched, any young people watching who don't know it, Frank Spencer was the character, and Some Mothers Do Have Them, as in apostrophe AVE, Some Mothers Do Have Them. I looked up on YouTube the other day and I watched the episode, and the writing, the structure, the lines back and forth was absolutely superb. Because obviously I, as a 10-year-old, was just waiting for the bit where Frank Spencer came with his berry on and Betty. But the writing, watching it as a middle-aged man as opposed to a boy, the writing is staggeringly good. I mean, every line, boom, boom, brilliant, brilliant writing.
It was almost going to be Norman Wisdom as Frank Spencer, but he turned it down.
Is that right?
Yeah. He was the front runner, but he turned it down at the last minute.
Thank God.
Yeah, because it needed, with all due respect to Michael Crawford, it needed a weedy, innocent character to get into all the scraps that he did. You know.
That's great.
It was such a great series. My first ever London gig was the Comedy Store, and it was Linda Smith, God bless her. She was on the bill. John Maloney, Phil Jupitus, Richard Morton, and top of the bill was Charles Fleischer, who was never heard of again because he's like an American voiceover artist.
Is
he went to voice Roger Rabbit.
Roger Rabbit, yeah.
Yeah,
I have heard about him.
Needn't have worked again.
I have heard about him. Yeah, I just didn't know the name.
Yeah, he was superb. Following on from that, like me, do you go to a lot of comedy gigs, or did you before you were a comedian as a member of the audience?
Neither. No. When I went to a handful. When I started doing stand-up, I went to the Bearcat religiously and watched it every Monday. So I only started going regularly to comedy once I was doing it. But no, I'd been to Comedy Store twice, a couple of Scream Movie Murders, and the Bearcat once. So I've been to comedy 5 times before I was doing it.
Wow. Would you, if you were on a bill of, say, 5 acts and you were on first, would you stay and watch the rest of the bill?
If it was in London, yeah. And if it was out of London, I'd take advantage of an early night.
Right. Don't blame you. I've so much enjoyed talking to you. I could talk to you all night, my friend.
We've done it.
This has absolutely flown. Is there anything else you would like to say before we go? Have you got any podcasts or any writing or anything like this?
No, just my book, Finding Your Comic Genius. I've written the only book ever written for comedians who do comedy already rather than want to do comedy. So I've written a book that's advanced. It doesn't show you how to do a setup and a punchline. If that's what you're looking for, that's not the right book. But it's a book on how to be a better comedian. But people who've never been on stage read it because, in actual fact, it's quite nice to know what you'll be doing in a year's time.
So it was so good because my mate Chris Young, who runs the Hastings Comedy Festival, he's a promoter, but he wants to get back into comedy. And when I met him in London, we went to see him do the Camden Fringe. He produced your book, and he was singing praises for it. So well done, you.
Thank you so much. But yeah, it's on Amazon, only on Amazon. But it's my proudest achievement as a comedian.
Good lad.
Above all my shows, Edinburgh shows, above my radio series. Yeah, it's my proudest achievement. And it's there forever. Hopefully, there's no reason it should be taken down, unless I become a known serial killer. Sales might dip. But
well, that's highly unlikely. Come on. Where can people find you on social media? That's the other question.
I'm on Twitter, Adam Bloomy 2, Adam Bloomy IE 2. The reason I was Adam Bloomy before, so I came back as Adam Bloomy 2 as I left. And I'm also on Instagram, Adam Bloom Comedy. I only joined Instagram just over a year ago to promote the book. Good and it's a lot of fun. It's really fun seeing what other people are up to, just, flicking through and seeing, because I've never been on Facebook. So for me, so I read a line once, Twitter's Facebook for ugly people.
I only use social media to promote the blog. I mean, there's so much on there. You can get lost in it all. Thank you so much for your time. I am looking
Thank you for
forward.
having me. What an honour.
Well, you're very kind. And I'm looking forward so much to seeing you again live soon, because you're a fantastic comedian. Please keep doing what you do. And thank you so much.
Bless you. Thank you.
All the best to you. Thanks now.